Okay, so there's been lots of phone footage from that Correspondents Dinner at the Hilton, where there was this so-called assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and I want to focus on just one of those pieces of footage, which is where RFK, Kennedy, the guy in charge of health at the White House, the crazy conspiracy theorist, he is taken off by 12 or 14 members of the Secret Service away from the area of danger, leaving his sort of wife stranded and abandoned. Now, I don't want to go into what's going on there too much in terms, I'll show you the footage, and but certainly you can decide for yourself kind of what is the dynamic here. But the reason I want to talk about it is because it's so uncanny, the relationship with that scene as Cheryl Hines, the wife, is abandoned, to a film, a really excellent film, which I really recommend anybody sees if they can, by Ruben Östlund, called Force Majeur. Now, Force Majeur is a film where a very, very similar thing happens. There is an event. It's not an assassination attempt or a shooting. It's actually an avalanche at a ski centre. And what happens is that when there is this sense of danger, the husband abandons the wife, kind of sees the avalanche and runs off. And it was very similar to what we saw at the Hilton Hotel. Absolutely in that instinctive moment, these big men with guns, they surround this man and they move him away, and leaving a kind of humiliated Cheryl Hines sort of following behind, something I won't get out of my head. And it was exactly the same in this film, Force Majeur. So what was the film Force Majeur actually about? Well, it was about what is the instinct when we have a major event. Is it to save ourselves? Is that instinctive? Is that normal? Or for the Secret Service guys to save the big man? Or do we have sort of moral duty or responsibility? And, is this a revelation of a character when something like this happens? Do we really see what people are when something like this happens? So let's go through it. Now, Kennedy, as you know, is married to Cheryl Hines. We can never understand what goes on in other people's relationships, but what we can say is that Cheryl Hines is an actress who has spent many, many years starring in Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is made by Larry Davis, who is very much a progressive of the left, and really rails against this sort of right-wing kind of MAGA hysteria. In fact, they're in one episode, he really doesn't want to talk to anybody or be bothered, and so he actually wears a MAGA hat because he knows that it will disgust people in his local Los Angeles community, and they'll just run away from him, who's this crazy cowboy in Los Angeles, Anyway. So it's a strange kind of, because, Kennedy's a peculiar man. I mean, he's a conspiracy theorist, isn't he? I mean, he's a nutter. He's talked about 5G towers possibly causing biological effects. He says the government are hiding truth about illness and disease, particularly in the COVID area. Now, I'm not saying that governments are pure. Of course, they're not. But the idea that they kind of willingly want people to die or fail or be ill, he kind of goes a little bit too far down that road for me. And of course, his greatest sort of strange, anomalous beliefs are about vaccines. He's all over the place with vaccines. He derides some and then changes his mind, and You know, he's for a health minister, he's caused a lot of confusion, and of course, I think that he must have been behind the amazing discovery that that ADHD and autism is caused by paracetamol, a claim which has been sort of debunked worldwide by nearly everybody. A very dangerous man to have in the White House, but you know, that's Trump's White House for you. So here he is. So what actually happened? Well, maybe I'll put the video on, but you can probably get a better version than mine somewhere else. So you can see there Kennedy being bundled away, and a sort of flailing, rather humiliated, rather lost, rather abandoned Cheryl Hines kind of just exposed there to the shooter. Nobody looking back. Nobody giving a damn. Now, you know, I don't want to cast aspersions, but I don't see Kennedy. I hope that I would, with my wife, I hope that I would, you know, I would be looking back. I was saying, no, fucking hell, fuck, stop this. You know, where is she? But he just seems to be kind of... Now, in the film Force Majeur, the same thing happens. The avalanche is coming. A man runs off, disappears, hides, just leaving his wife, actually and child, to the mercy of the mountain. And nobody dies. And so you might think, well, you know, nobody died, you know, but of course it's what remains. And what remains of that scene at the Hilton? What remains of the relationship with the guy in Force Majeur who seems to have abandoned his wife? Now, of course, this is such a dereliction of kind of moral duty that we kind of expect, social expectation, that you kind of protect those you love around you, and you prioritise them over yourself. But what happens is there's a massive denial afterwards. And in the film, he completely denies it. He just sort of says, I didn't. Now, I'm going to look closely at what the kind of excuses are for this online, but I have heard one or two, and they seem to be as sort of unconvincing as the man in the film who says, "Oh, I didn't run off," when clearly he did. And that is that a spokesman said that actually that Cheryl Hines was safer being abandoned than being anywhere near her husband in that moment of crisis. Her husband, surrounded by 12 or 14 guys, bundled into safety, surrounded by weapons. Her exposed, in the middle, no protection. She was safer there, that's what they're saying. The rationale, of course, being that she was safer there because obviously JFK must have been the central target. That's who the shooter might well have been after. It doesn't hold any water that Cheryl Hines was safer alone. In the film, the guy obviously feels emasculated and a sense of humiliation, perhaps. He knows it's a dereliction of duty. And he can't really recover from that. And his wife cannot continue in the same vein with the relationship. She at least needs to understand. And it does come down to a question of instinct versus a moral duty, or what we expect of people. And perhaps what we expect of people in the crisis, in the moment when you think instinct would take over. That's what maketh the man. So, to understand what happened at the Hilton in terms of Cheryl Hines being abandoned there, it's really useful to watch the film Force Majeur. Not that anybody would go and watch the film just to work out what happened to her, but I did, and that's the way it is. It didn't look good, and I think it says. I think we can read into this quite a lot, actually, when we see this footage. That somehow we reify these great apes who are in positions of power in a really bizarre way, a way which kind of really justifies false hierarchies that we have everywhere. I mean, I was really taken by the sorts of sycophantic, rather pathetic messages on Twitter from various heads of state to Trump after what wasn't even nearly a near miss. You know, a guy lets off a gun in the lobby and he's a couple of floors above. People like the Finnish President Alexander Stubbs, many others, sending out, my warmest wishes to Donald Trump for kind of surviving this awful, politically motivated attack. Really delighted that he's safe and he's well. Why don't they produce messages like that for every single Iranian that died because of Trump's bombs? Or every Ukrainian that died because Trump hasn't stepped up? There's something distasteful about that scene. What do you think?